Okay, so we've got an interesting guest coming up shortly who's going to give us a bit of an insight into a really important area. I suppose a lot of us might be apprehensive about asking for time away. Perhaps the other challenge as well, we all like spending time with our children as much as we possibly can, but we're going to get more of an insight. Jane van Zyl, welcome to the show. Great to be on board. Can you please give us a bit of an insight into what you do and what the research suggests?
Thanks, Jimmy. Working Families as a charity's mission is to remove the barriers that people with caring responsibilities face in the workplace. And we've just done some research where Waits Group has been a sponsor for this. They're a real-world example of employer-led change, but the research is about dads particularly. And 74% of dads, nearly 3/4 of dads, want to embrace equal parenting. But what they're finding is that workplace pressures are affecting their family and their child's health because they are very nervous about asking for a bit of time off, any kind of flexibility. And what they are saying is that 1 in 5 dads have been asked, well, where's your wife? Where's your partner? Why can't he or she go and pick up Johnny or Jane from the school gates? So for them, this has been a real problem. And we know that until dads are supported to care, mothers remain the default parent. And this affects pay, progression, and well-being for women, but more worryingly, impacts family life. 89% of parents that we spoke to in 2023 said that flexible working positively affects their well-being as a family.
Absolutely, Jane. I completely agree with that, and I can sort of vouch anecdotally from personal experience where I've been at places work-wise, and I've always sort of made a point of picking up I have 2 children, either one of them, take them to sports and other stuff, and occasionally you just need that bit of flexibility to sort of get off half an hour early to get there, but you repay the time tenfold. Honestly, most people do, like myself, but you still get places, and this sort of going back a year ago now, things might have changed a little bit now, that would kind of make it difficult for you to do it. But what can you do in that situation? It can be quite challenging, really. I mean, to the point that a lot of people might even look for a new role, if that's the case.
Yeah, absolutely. We know that flexible working increases loyalty. 73% of parents reported a higher commitment to their employers if they were able to get that flexibility. And we're not talking about, wholesale changes. It's really just those little tweaks around the edges. And most importantly, a culture which says that it is okay to ask for that time. I mean, we would encourage, particularly bosses, if they are leaving early or coming in late, to say what they're doing it for, so that people that they're working with can really easily see. And then having that human-to-human conversation with the people that you work with. Everybody knows that within families, there are occasionally crises, and everybody needs a little bit of flexibility, and the employer needs a bit of flexibility too. There are going to be occasions when you're really busy at work and you need to spend an extra half an hour. But it's those cultural changes, talking openly about parenting responsibilities, taking leave when you are given it. And workplaces need to give both parents the chance to balance work and family without judgment or financial pressure.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I suppose for anyone listening who finds themselves in that situation where, it can be difficult at times. Jane, speak, probably for myself and a lot of people. Sometimes it can be difficult because you're in a role, you're not quite sure how to go about saying I need this day, half a day, to take, my lad or my daughter to a sports event or wherever you've got planned to do type thing. I need to get off a certain time so I can pick them up and do whatever, really. And it's not a question of taking liberties. It's a question of you prioritize, certain things as well. But it can feel awkward at times if you've got someone who's not understanding.
Yeah.
They can also subtly, passive aggressively, make you feel kind of almost guilty for asking, if that makes any sense.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, we know all about that. We hear about that on the advice line that we have for working parents and carers. But we also know that there are many employers out there who, when asked, will actually be more accommodating than employees expect. So, we would always say to people, talk to the people that you work with, find out what's been going on, who's been able to get time off and why, and then have that person-to-person conversation. I mean, we know there are some bad bosses out there, but the vast majority of people actually want to be good bosses. They want their businesses to thrive. They want to go to work and not be miserable. And so people will make accommodations. In the 1970s, dads on average were spending 15 minutes a day with their kids. That's a big, big change to today, where, as we say in this research, 75% of dads want to fully embrace equal parenting. And there are great employers out there as well. And we would certainly encourage everybody to, if you are going to change jobs, find out what the parental leave policies are. Maybe if you get a chance to chat to people who are already working there to find out what goes on within that workplace.
Absolutely, Jane. I think this is, there's certainly a topic that's sort of close to me, and I'm sure a lot of listeners too. And I've always sort of before I've started a role, whether that role might be, made it clear that, I'll give 110%. And a lot of people out there are the same, but equally in saying that, there are certain circumstances, that I need to sort of prioritize. The kids, they're number one in I would think in any parent's life, but I can understand the business, they want to sort of do well too. But I speaking to you there, I'm sort of thinking, I think most people, given the chance, would repay the employer tenfold to get the job done if they sort of show a bit of leeway and said, okay, you can take off and do whatever it is that you sort of have planned to do, type thing. And I think there are certain things as well. Look, I know obviously I think it's really important, I think, for children to have that, I think, that sort of paternal figure in their life, Jane. It really is. I look, all the literature, all the research suggests that it really is important, for the children, for the dad as well, Jane. It really is.
Absolutely. It's so important for kids to have lots of adults around that they can have conversations with, that they can learn from. And dads are such an important part of that picture. And we know that flexibility increases commitment from employees to their employer. And we know that dads want to be good parents. That's why they have kids. And obviously, with the cost of living crisis that we've got at the moment, we also know that we're not in a position where there's one parent who stays at home and another parent who goes out to work. The vast majority of parents in this country, both parents are working, so they both need a bit of flexibility so that they can manage all of the responsibilities they have to their kids.
Absolutely. And I suppose sort of, we got sort of getting too deep and off track. We live in a day and age where there's so much information out there, Jane. I think a lot of parents, I'll say, I'll be honest and upfront, I am concerned at times with all the information out there on the internet and stuff like that. All the, you worry sometimes about who's going to influence your children in terms of, that's a bit of a worry. There's some pretty, look, it's not for me to say who's good or bad, but some characters out there that sort of can really influence people for their own agenda in a negative way. They might have their own, commercial agenda and sort of come up with a few half-truths, and someone who's young and impressionable might not question that. And that's a bit of a worry, really. So I think it is important to have time and, say, okay, just, the sort of conversations you have type thing before they sort of escalate.
Yeah, it's those conversations in the car on the way to school.
Absolutely, on the way to sport, on the way back from sport, and that sort of stuff. Really, to foster an open dialogue you know, they might have seen something on TikTok, on Twitter, whatever, and taken it as a given, really, without sort of like, you know, having those critical thinking skills. So you can say, well, actually, that's not right.
Yeah.
You know, but it's been great speaking to you, Jane. I'm sure we could sort of carry on speaking. I'm sure I could put the world to rights. But so where can people go again, Jane, if they want to sort of find out more information?
Have a look at www.workingfamilies.org.uk, and there's all of the information that you need about the work that we do.
Thank you, Jane. It's been great speaking to you. Have a great week.